right, this is going to be fun. Welcome, Felix, to the Leaders Who Care series. It is so great to have you on.
Thank you so much. It's really great being here.
And I like you advertising Berkeley. Way to go.
Yes, with the sweatshirt.
Which looks great. And we're on the same time zone for everybody to know. We're both on Pacific time here. And the best way to start, as I always say, was if you could briefly introduce yourself, not like what you do and this and that, but a little bit about, who are you and what about your family, where you're from originally, where you are now. And I always challenge people to maybe tell us something they've never told anybody before that you want to reveal now to the world. You can do that
Mm.
too if you want to, but you don't have to. So,
Yeah,
so
I have to
share.
think about that. Yeah. But yeah, hi, my name is Felix. Just some basic facts about me, I guess. I'm a freshman at UC Berkeley. I'm studying econ and data science, which is actually very exciting. It was a bit of a switch from my original major, which was environmental science and film. But I'm actually finding myself to be very much into data science. So I love it here. Um, I'm a pretty creative person. I would say I really love art. I love writing. I used to be in my high school choir, so I really like singing. I've been singing ever since I was young. I do a lot of inline skating. That's actually my top sport, my top hobby. It's kind of like um if you know me, you know that I'm like a crazy skater.
Really?
Yeah. I once hit 60 miles an hour going down San Francisco with the Friday night skate group.
Wow, really? 60 miles per hour. Wow.
Yes,
I
yes.
I used to do rollerblading, but because I played a lot of and still play a lot of hockey, so I'm on
Mm.
blades, escaping blades, whatever. But I don't know if I ever hit 60 miles per hour. Is that going down the hills of San Francisco?
Yeah, going down the hills. I don't think I'd be able to achieve that normally unless I really have a lot of speed, but yeah, it's very fun. It's a bit of an adrenaline junkie sort of like hobby, but I love it.
What
Yeah.
about stopping?
Stopping, I have actually learned like multiple ways to stop. There's like, the classic T stop because I don't actually have like those the heel brakes on my skates. So I have to use just completely manual ways of stopping. But I've learned a few really nice just slides and small stops that I can like slow myself down with before doing like oh, I forgot the name, but it's like a power stop almost, and it looks really cool.
Yeah, it must. It's not different than just dragging your skate behind you, right?
Yes, yes. It's sort of like a backwards lunge almost.
Wow, that's 60s fast. I used to go down the hills when I lived in Miami and Fort Lauderdale towards we go over the bridges and then come down fast. But that can be a little terrifying sometimes.
Yes, for sure. There is a bit of a fear factor, but I always have my gear. I always have like wrist guards and like elbow pads, knee pads, helmet. So I'm pretty assured of myself.
Yeah, those wrist guards are critical. I found for
Yeah.
sure. So, are you originally from the West Coast?
Yes, so I was born and raised in the Bay Area. I think I was born in Mountain View. And I've pretty much just stayed in Fremont my entire life.
Hmm.
And then now I'm still in the Bay at Berkeley, so that I'm very close to home, which is nice.
Do you have siblings, brothers, sisters?
No, I'm an only child, but I do have a cat. He is about, I think he'll be turning 4 years old this year, or maybe 5. He's a big cat. I think yes, he'll be turning 5 this year. Yes, yes. But I love him. He's kind of like my little brother.
What's his name?
Chobo. So it's short for the Final Fantasy Chocobo, which is kind of like a large like flightless bird that you can use for transportation in the games.
Wow, all right. He's a techie cat. Man.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
So as an only kid, you probably got a lot of attention, I would assume. Um, what were you like as a kid? Were you into music? Were you into computers? Did you open up the lemonade stand and become an entrepreneur? What were you like?
Um, I would say first of all, I was very bubbly. I went through a bit of a quiet phase in the middle of my current life, but I think now the way I am now is actually pretty similar to how I was when I was younger, just very energetic, bouncing off the walls, stuff like that. And speaking of the lemonade stand, I did actually have like a small personal business, except it wasn't lemonade. I actually made lollipops. So I would literally just melt like I think light corn syrup, sugar, water, and I think some other ingredients. I haven't made them in a while, but I would melt that together in a big pot and just kind of pour them over wax paper and use like food dye to make designs and stuff like that. And then I'd sell them at the local boba shop. To because at that time my goal was to try and like get enough money for a dog. That did not happen. I ended up donating all the money to Mission Blue. So yeah, and then I actually held another fundraiser with my lollipops when I was older, and I also donated all that money to Mission Blue. So it was more focused towards really just honing in on the ocean conservation.
No, that's fantastic, and I'm sure your cat appreciated that you didn't get a dog.
Yes. He's a very jealous cat, I think. He likes his space.
Why did you pick Mission Blue?
Um For a variety of reasons. Number one, because they're like the biggest global organization that creates safe spots or for endangered species. And I really respect that they do all this outreach to both youth and adults. And they really try to actively just petition for protecting all these really valuable species and all the biodiversity in our oceans, which is just so critical now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Although I'm sure a dog would have loved to live with you, but that's still that's still a good cause at the end of the day. When did you realize that you enjoy and you're good at leveraging your analytical thinking and your leadership problem solving to basically come to impactful solutions? Because I know you said now you're in data science.
Mm.
There must have been an inflection point. Something happened. What was it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think it really all started from when I was in elementary school. So I've always been one to just kind of take things apart, figure out how they work. And if there's a problem, I have already taken that thing apart so I can solve it. So there's this really funny story. In when I was in I think fourth grade, you know those like little calculators that they hand out in class, like the really tiny ones.
Right.
So I was very curious about what the solar panels were. So I actually like pushed the solar panels in and under the rest the calculator shell to see all the wiring underneath. And I think I actually ended up doing that to like almost every single calculator just for fun.
Oh God.
So the teacher obviously got very upset and was like, "Hey, you gotta pay for all of this." But I'm like, "Wait, no, no, pause. What if I didn't pay for them, but what if I fixed them?" So I took all the calculators home and I had like a little screwdriver and just my hands, and I was just going in there and just tearing it apart and putting the solar panels back. And at the end, they're just good as new. Um,
How did you
but
know what to do?
um That's a good question. I think for everything that I have done, I always just kind of figure it out on the spot. I look at the way things are arranged. I'm like, okay, maybe this goes here. This logically should fit there. Sort of like putting together IKEA furniture. I never look at the directions. I just want to go right in and just start doing it my own way. And if I make mistakes, I make mistakes, but I learn from them. And then in the end, I have a much better understanding of what I was working on than if I had just followed the directions.
I
So,
think we should send this to IKEA because they might want to do a commercial of how IKEA furniture helps you become better critical thinkers. um, which, if you think about it, it makes sense. It's like putting together a big Lego type of thing
yeah.
instead it's IKEA. Um,
Mhm.
I'd love for you to share some of you've had some really interesting initiatives that you've been engaged on, um, where you've made impact and you've made accomplishments. And maybe I'll do like one at a time. Maybe you give me a sense of some of them. So, Intel International Science and Engineering Fair. You were a researcher. You were a finalist in the fair. Share what that was about.
So I conducted research where I kind of like built my own underwater submersible, an ROV. And so it was pretty much the first of its size, of a recreational small size to actually be able to perform research functionality. So I had two modules that I built. So one was a survey module. It just had a GoPro and like two lights attached to it. And so I could drive my ROV down and just kind of survey an area. And then from the footage that I caught on the GoPro, I could actually stitch together a map of like population densities for any species that the divers I was working with wanted to track. In that case, it was urchins because urchins were their population is completely out of control. Um, and so they were just consuming all the kelp, and the kelp is the basis of the ecosystem, and so that was just toppling everything. So what this group does, they actually go down and manually cull the urchins. So they take like these pickaxe looking hammers and like smash them. Giant kelp restoration project. They're a really fantastic group. And they were my main driving force, I think. So I mainly built this ROV to help them. And so the other module in my ROV was a suction module. So I dremeled like the end of a barbecue spatula, like off the spatula and attached it to the module. And so it could actually go down and scrape up urchins and just kind of like using just another thruster, just suck them into like a net for collection. And so that's actually really critical for ecosystem like kind of health surveying and management because the inside of an urchin, the amount of uni or gonad that it has really is a testament to how well they're doing, how balanced the ecosystem is. The less gonad there is, the more like heavily tipped the ecosystem is. So I was taking that up and giving them to the online researchers and just giving them real I think what would be pretty important data to like long-term measure the health of the ecosystem.
Are,
So
are any of these like patentable, if you will?
I do have a patent for my ROV. Actually, I applied for it in 2023, so I do have a patent for it.
Super cool. Have you ever seen the movie Octopus Teacher?
Yes, yes. It made so many people fall in love with octopi, and I was very happy about
Yeah,
that.
and it just shows, you know, like the great stuff some of the stuff you're doing. I think it educates people as to what's happening down there that we don't really know. This one's affecting that one and that one and this one, and when we see the Octopus Teacher and how loving and smart it is in its own way, it blew
Mhm.
me away. And now you're talking about the urchins and everything. To me, it's always just been fascinating and yet basic how nature really knows what it's doing without us messing it up.
Exactly. Everything is so deeply interconnected. It's to me, it's really incredible. It's just like even if you just affect one little thing, things that took like thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of years to just settle down and establish themselves could all just be wiped away just like that. And it's very people don't see what's under the surface. Not at all. And so there's a lot of unknowns in the ocean about how like beautiful and magical and how fragile it is as well. So I think it's really good that more people are are like creating documentaries or just
Right.
kind of educating the general public. There's more awareness about this now, and I think that's really healthy. That's really great.
Yeah, I had learned about how mushrooms are incredible in creating communities underground and underwater when
Mhm.
we're bringing it together. And even the redwoods, their roots don't go down very far, but they all attach and hug each other, if you will, to help each other stand up. Because you think the redwood, you need to go like way down to be able for it to stay, and yet they don't. So it's fascinating, and I love the fact that you're doing that, and other people are sharing some of that info, so we know how incredible it is, and we can learn so much about it. Going to Taipei, you were involved in an ICE conference in Taipei City, right? Share about that too.
So that was where I actually presented my research to like an international stage. So that was a really amazing experience. It was very daunting being in front of so many professionals in my field. But I was like, oh my God, this is like a great opportunity to share my work and get other people interested, and maybe more can be done about this. So I presented to like a little council of a bunch of the judges, and they ended up really liking my work because I think I was actually the youngest person in attendance there, which surprised a lot of them. Also adding on the fact that I can actually fluently speak Chinese. So I remember going up and I'm like, hey, how should I do this in Chinese or English? And they're like, Chinese? So yeah, it was a very educational experience, especially just like listening to other people's presentations as well, just what they've accomplished over like a decade's worth of work, which is just insane for me to even comprehend.
Yeah,
But
I can imagine. I miss the fact of, because I was always the youngest, very often early on, way back when, like way
Mhm.
back when. In fact, one of my friends that I should change friends told me again the other day. He said, "Mark, you always used to be the youngest and the shortest in every meeting. Now you're just the shortest." I said, "Thanks a lot, bud." But to me, it was invigorating being the youngest. It was like a challenge to do it,
Mhm.
and even the nerves were great if you guide those nerves the right way, the energy of them. So I think that's awesome. How did you come to found? I know you're interested in the ocean, Aqua Meridian.
So Aqua Meridian is actually it was at its core of an international organization that was based out of Hong Kong. So I met the founder, Auntie Sharon Kwok, through a sequence of very hilarious events. And, so she kind of took me under her wing almost. I kind of became her apprentice of sorts.
Well, what's the hilarious event stuff?
Oh, yes, yes. So, it starts with my dad, really. My dad, he used to play this game, War Dragons. It's probably a very unknown game, but you always join like guilds or clans in those types of games. And so in his clan, there's just this woman that was dropping like 10K on the game. And he was like, "Who is this lady?" Right? So they connect, and then the lady is like, "Oh, I'm Sharon Kwok. I'm a philanthropist in Hong Kong." And my dad was like, "No way," because that's just crazy. He thought it was like a someone posing to be her or something. Um, but eventually, the clan has kind of like a local meetup in San Francisco, and then Auntie Sharon shows up, and it's like, "Oh my God, it's actually her." So my dad and Auntie Sharon start talking more, and then eventually he introduces me to her, and so I'm like this little kid just kind of itching for something to do. And so first she introduced me to Taekwondo. She was like, "You are like, you would be perfect for Taekwondo," and I actually got quite far, before time limitations caused me to just I had to put it down.
Right.
Um, and then afterwards, I think in about
You put
six,
it down, or did you put someone else down with the taekwondo?
I was quite a pacifist in sparring. Like if I hit somebody even slightly too hard, I'll be like, "Oh my God, are you okay? I'm sorry." I've always kind of been that type of person, but I do love the martial
You have a
arts.
secret weapon because they don't expect you to know that. They don't expect you to be able to do that as a smart.
Yes.
So you can be surprised. So that is hilarious how that happened then, but
Mm.
not necessarily by accident.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it was a lot of luck that led me to where I was. A lot of coincidences, a lot of just happy accidents almost.
But don't you think, just on that point for a minute,
Mm.
a lot of these things happen, and the way they turn into good things is if you're open to see and when something like that happens and then take advantage of it. If you're not open or negative about, oh, something might happen, it's just luck. It's luck, but it's not luck. It's opportunistic things that happen, and then because you're
Mm.
open to it, great stuff happen from it, right?
It's definitely very important, like very like correlated to mindset. I think because I was very young, I was like very excited to try new things. I hadn't quite found what I wanted to do in life yet, but a lot of my classmates were like, "Oh, I love programming. Oh, I love math, biology," and I was just kind of like, "Well, where's my sort of like where's my passion?" And then I checked out a scuba diving class in July 2012. And I was like, oh my God, this is really cool stuff. Because I was, again, also the youngest in the class, but I absorbed everything like a sponge. And I loved learning about just the technicalities of being a scuba diver. Like what did you have to do to maintain your gear? What specific components of the gear? What were the exact steps to preparing yourself for a dive?
Hmm.
that was that is where I found my spark, and I'm very grateful that I was just so open to just trying anything at all, that I stumbled upon scuba diving, and it just sparked my pretty much my entire career.
I think it's a great lesson because very often people are forced to decide what you want to be, and in a lifetime you can be a lot of different things, these days, and it can really restrict somebody for to take something on that maybe they may even be really good at it, but they don't really like,
Yeah.
and they should be open to other stuff. So good for you for for doing that. And I found it interesting that before that you were involved in real estate, which is totally opposite of everything here. Um, how did that come to be?
Um, so that actually started with my dad as well. He's very multi-talented and I really admire him for all that he does. So he at his main W-2 job, he very quickly rose up in the ranks because he's a very skilled software programmer. But eventually the workload just became a lot because he was put into a managing position, and especially during COVID, the hours just kind of it never stopped. It wasn't like a 9 to 5 day or even an 8 to 8 day. It was just all day, every day, just 24/7. And so he wanted to find a different way that we could make income. And so he started looking into real estate. So now he's the one holding conferences and teaching and all that. But at the beginning, he started off just going to other people's conferences, just absorbing information, just sitting in on like group talks and just learning. Learning everything he could about the different industries, like multifamily, even like house flipping, Airbnb, short-term rentals, all that. So he built up his expertise and then he started eventually pursuing his own projects. So he made a lot of connections, and then he actually went to buy his own apartment in Texas. So the Dallas Fort Worth area is where he mainly operates. And so he started buying apartments there, with a lot of help from all the investors and the network that he's accumulated. And so eventually that got to be a stable enough income and just the right amount of work that it wouldn't be overwhelming. And so he quit his W-2 job and devoted full time to real estate. And so at this point, I was still pretty busy with high school, trying to graduate and all that. So I wasn't super involved, but I did invest just a very measly $100 into one of my dad's apartments once. I made $17 on it.
Nice.
Yeah, so at least I got some return, which was a nice little foray into the world of investing and real estate. So lately, since I've had more time since I'm in college, we're trying to make it more of like a family business, like something for all three of us. And so we hosted our very first conference last Saturday and Sunday, last weekend. And so it was just kind of bringing together all just a bunch of people from all over the industry, from everywhere across the states, and his own students, because he actually teaches. He teaches cohorts of students that are just wanting to learn about real estate and wanting to learn what to look out for when investing in a property or investing with somebody. So he teaches very valuable lessons in those. And I've actually been I'm joining his newest cohort, so I'm very excited to learn much more and actually be able to be part of the conversation rather than just listening. But yes.
It's
So
it's
mm,
fascinating. So you've now invested in below sea level and above sea level,
yeah.
basically. um, which is cool. You know, I know what's great about that too is the good fortune, if you will, of having a family that talks about entrepreneurial, talks about things of that nature, because not everybody has that, and
Yeah.
and it's a great thing. It's a great thing to have because it teaches. Obviously, it teaches so many things aside from the actual business itself. The teamwork, the leadership, the planning. Everything that goes along with it. So kudos for your mom and dad for doing a good job on you, basically.
Thank you.
So the last thing I want to
Parents
ask
are
you about,
incredible. Yeah.
yeah, no, I
They're very smart, very hardworking.
yeah, and we did meet also, um,
Hmm.
which was
Yeah.
super cool, and I hope to see them again, and you can obviously say hi to them for me, which would be
For
great.
sure. Yeah.
Um, so the last thing before the last couple of questions, is it pronounced doer or doer, Marine?
Doer, DOER, Doer Marine.
Now, is that actually what it says, doer, someone who is a doer, or what?
That's that's one of the adopted meanings, but the full acronym is Deep Ocean Exploration and Research. So they're a company that designs and builds these deep sea submarines for research purposes, for expeditions, um, for really just so many amazing things. And they also have their own dive shop, which is quite fitting. So I actually interned there for 2 summers. I was sort of like in the secretarial position the first year, and then and then I very slowly sort of like wiggled my way into the engineering department. Um, so back then I really wanted to be a mechanical engineer or even just like a marine engineer or anything like that. So I was learning a lot of like 3D modeling with SolidWorks and Fusion 360 at school and just really just trying to learn everything there is about the entire process of building a submarine.
So that, again, you're a great example of lessons learned. Titles don't mean anything. If
Mm.
you just get into something where there's good people doing good stuff and be open to learning, be open to, contributing and volunteering for projects and things of that, you find out what you like, what you don't like, you get great experience, you get good relationships. It's not rocket science. It's got to be open to being engaged. So great lesson. I'm sure you learned a lot, just even whatever the position is, because once you're in, you can start volunteering to be involved in anything that they're working.
Exactly. And I found it very unique how passionate everybody is. I think it's very rare for a company to a very established company to have for their employees to still have so much just raw energy and passion for what they do. And I think the people that really care about what they do, that's very beautiful. And that is what I want to do someday. I want to be in a job that I'm both good at and I can really enjoy. That is my dream. I don't quite know what I want to do yet. I'm still kind of
That's
floating around.
okay. I'm still trying to figure it out myself too. So, um, but
Yeah.
we when we talk about leaders who care, we talk about they care about making money, and they also care about having purpose at the same time. And you should never anymore have to give up one for the other because life's too short to do that. And so, right on, you just keep going. And you know what? I think we now have realized that you can have different interests at the same time or even different times of our lives that lead to. So with that said, other points or questions before we conclude on this part. What do you envision for yourself short term and beyond?
Um, for sure, for short term, I think I'm really just focused on learning as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially in this new major that I'm going into, I pretty much don't know anything. Um, all that I know have been from like news articles and books I've read, but I really want to just be able to dive deep and really get into the nitty-gritty of it and just learn about economics, learn about data science, like market analysis, market research. I want to learn about real estate. I want to learn more about my hobbies, skating, art, writing. I want to be a better writer. There's just so many things I want to do, I feel, and I just have to take it step by step. Because it feels overwhelming at times. But it's just prioritize and then just split your time and learn. So that's what I envision for myself short term. Long term, I am actually not quite sure, but
You don't
like I
have to be
mentioned
sure, like
before,
we talked about. You
yeah,
don't have to be sure.
yeah. And
And
like I said before, I want a job that I'm passionate about, that I truly care about doing, and I can make an impact on the world while I do it. Whether that's like just a 9 to 5 job that I'm good at that makes the money to fund my extracurriculars, like all my environmental advocacy and all of that.
yeah,
Then
I think
yeah.
if you meet the right people, which it sounds like you are by what you do, the relationships become not the whole ball game, but a lot of the ball game, because the
Yeah.
relationships will lead to stuff and people that you want to hang around with and engage with. Last question.
Mhm.
Even though we say in LA that you got to leave them wanting more so you can do a sequel, is what we. But the pandemic was a big impactful event, and now it's already 2025. Amazingly enough, can you share what you're most grateful for, and also what you're most hopeful for?
Um, I'm very grateful for my family, first of all. They really supported me through COVID and really just encouraged my interests rather than being like, oh, you have to be like a doctor or a lawyer or like a programmer, as is very stereotypical for Chinese kids. But
It applies to Jewish kids too.
yes. So they really just encourage all my interests. Like, oh, I want to go skating. They helped me buy new skates and just allowed me to explore that interest. I want to run. They bought me new running shoes. They supported that. They supported all my interests, both financially and moral and just like mentally. And I
Mhm.
think that really helped me get through COVID relatively sane.
Relatively sane.
I don't think anyone can really come out through COVID and like the same that they were before, but I really appreciate COVID for what it did for me, I think. I actually think I got more social. And so on that same note, I'm very grateful to all my friends because they've been sticking around for so long and they always are there for me. And I'm very, very grateful for everything they do, whether it's just like going out on a run or going out for lunch or just hanging out and studying and like cramming for exams together.
Yeah.
But it is just the little things that matter the most to me, I feel. So I'm very grateful for just everyone in my life and all the opportunities.
And what are you most hopeful for?
Um, I'm most hopeful for me to grow and change even more as a person because I think everyone always wants to be better. And that is a fantastic goal. I also want to improve myself. I want to be a better public speaker. I want to be a better friend. So I'm very hopeful for the changes that I will undergo and also for what the world will undergo because there's a lot of changes happening lately.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, um, I can't really say anything about it. I don't know enough about it to say much, to be honest. But I'm just keeping an eye on things and just learning what I can and just trying to find the good in all these changes that are happening and
No, I
just
think
find
that's,
my place in this new world.
yeah, it is changing fast, and you can't know everything. And well, I tell you what, I'm grateful for you as a new friend. I am grateful for you as a new friend. I'm grateful that you are a leader who cares, very clearly a leader who cares about making a difference out there and whatnot and values. And I think I'm hopeful for exactly the same reason because it's going to be people like yourself that are gonna lead the way. So no pressure, but take the lead, go for it.
Yeah.
And so thank you for being on Leaders Who Care and for
Thank
being
you for
one.
having me.
and look forward to seeing a lot of great things happen in the future.
Thank you.